for supporting this. And, you know, huge effort going on in New Zealand to build capability capacity in Safe System, alongside some pretty exciting strategic work and big programs and some real sort of world leading stuff going on in that space. So it's really exciting to be part of it. Let's, Kathy's already just hit the record button. And why do we record? Well, we record so if you miss a session, you can watch that session in your own time. And also, if you want to check back on something that was said or revisit something, you can go back. Those will be made available to you about 24 hours after the session. We do show some road crashes in this course in order to try to understand what went wrong and what we can do to prevent or lessen severity of those. So just a little bit of a content warning there. Nothing overly graphic. Just trying to analyze a few things. But if that could disturb you, just something to note. And who are you, Kathy?
It's an awfully good question, Ken. I'm the training manager at Safe System Solutions, and I have either emailed or spoken to many of you so far. I basically look after the coordination and logistics and admin side of things of the program. So you can contact me if you can't make a session, if you've got any questions, if you need an extension. That's a popular one. I get quite often. Can I have an extension for my assignment? And I usually say yes. And during the session, you chat via the chat function, so we can't hear you and we can't see you. But if you do want to ask a question, you can use the chat function or use the Q&A function. I monitor both. And we might ask you to participate in the session. So if you do want to do that, you raise your hand using the little raise hand function, and we'll unmute you and you can talk. If you have any concerns technological wise, shut it down, restart. Usually that fixes, you know, it's the classic IT fix for everything. Turn it off, turn it back on again. Usually that fixes things, but if you're having any more technical issues, just let me know.
Good, thank you, Kathy. And yeah, so Kathy is your go-to person for anything admin logistics of the course. And I'm sure this group will be the first ever when nobody asks for an extension, Kathy, because they're all so eager to get their assignments done and on time and move through. But yeah, so thank you. Kathy's details are there and you've got emails from her, but of course you can contact any of the Safe System Solutions crew and we'll make sure it's fed through to Kathy. But do proactively put stuff in the chat and the Q&A and get that conversation going behind the scenes. Okay, I am Ken Beer. I think I know quite a few of you, but good to meet those I don't. I'm the Principal Engineer at Safe System Solutions. And before that, spent a lot of time in the Victorian government Vic Roads, managing road safety engineering, road safety auditing, technical standards and the like, and doing different bits and pieces. And I'm going to lead the course, so run most of the sessions. We've also got Fergus Tate coming along for one of the sessions, one of the modules. Many of you will know Fergus, a road safety legend of New Zealand, been around many years there, formerly Wakatahi, now with WSP. So Ferg will be in on module 3, talking to you about some of the technical elements of some of those very technical audits. So if you've got technical questions, sorry, as I jump onto Moodle, but if you've got technical questions, shoot those through to me. My contact details are there. You'll also see there, I've popped in a little QR code to my LinkedIn, and it's down there for the next few slides if you want to jump onto that. And that's because the road safety conversation just continues on, and we put out different bits and pieces online, and I like to share things that I find and follow what others are doing and projects and new things. So great way to just keep that connection and that information exchange going. So please connect with me and we'll continue our conversation. But Kathy, maybe if you want to explain what Moodle is, What is this Moodle thing?
Absolutely. Thank you. And I think lots of people have jumped on and said hello in Moodle and done your intros. So thank you very much for that. So it's our learning management system, and it's where we'll house everything. So presentations that is delivering quiz questions, assignment work, resources. It's chock full of resources. So that's where you'll find everything, and it's set up in the different modules 1 through to 5 as per the course. So that's where you'll go to complete all your bits and pieces, and then at the end, that's where your certificate will appear once you've successfully completed the course. If you haven't logged in yet, jump in at the end of this session. If you can't find your login details, send me an email and I'll send them through to you.
Thanks, Kathy. And here is Wally. Where's Wally the Wombat? Now, those who have done the Safe System Assessment course are eagerly excited about the return of Wally. But for those who haven't done it, your task, each module, is to count how many times you see Wally the Wombat appear in the slides. So that's just an example Wally. That's what the Wally looks like. That's not a Wally though, so your Wally count is 0. But just keep track of that, because at the end of each module, when you do your quiz, you'll be asked how many times Wally appeared. It's one of our many tricks to try to keep you engaged in the content of the course while it's being presented. We have some polls, we have some little exercises within the course and the like, and keeping track of Wally is another one of them. So keep an eye out for Wallies. And there is a benchmark, competency benchmark for this course, and some minimum requirements that you must meet. You need to come to 4 out of the 5 live webinars and view that one you missed. Now, if it's particularly crazy in life and things pop up and you have to miss another one, get in contact with Kathy, have a chat about how you can go about that. But try to get along to the live sessions and ask questions and have input. We've got a series of tasks that you're going to have to complete, and you need to get an 80% or above on all the quizzes and assignments. You've got at least 3 attempts on them, and throughout the course, one-on-one coaching is available. So if you are struggling, if you really don't understand something, get in contact with myself or Kathy, and we will set up a one-on-one coaching session for you on that topic. We can re-go through the content. We can look at your site with you. We really want to guide you through it and ensure that you have that competency. And we're sending you out with some basic understandings of the fundamentals of road safety auditing. Okay, so that is the sort of admin logistics side of things. Hopefully you're all comfortable with that. But as we tick along, just write your questions into the chat or into the Q&A. Don't wait for me to stop and say, does anybody have any questions? Because the time it takes you to type and then enter and then me waiting, I'll have moved on. So just type them in as you go. Feel free to just put comments, your insights into different things as they pop up, or if you know local examples of the things that I'm talking about, pop that in and share it with everybody, and let's get a bit of conversation going. Okay, Kathy, you're going to give me the green light to jump into some content?
Absolutely, go for it.
All right. Thank you. So, road safety audits. Road safety auditing is the topic of this course, and I run this course across Australia, New Zealand, and parts of Southeast Asia. But road safety auditing is a bit of a worldwide thing now. It started off very much in the UK, and then Australia and New Zealand were very early adopters of road safety auditing about 30 years ago. And the rest of the world sort of taken their time to come along, but it's really kicking off now. Certainly the US is very much ramping up, and it's fun to, chat to people in the US and they say, have you heard of this new thing, road safety auditing? And I'm like, yeah, we have. So they're really jumping on board. But it's certainly something that if you know how to undertake the process of road safety audit and the fundamental elements and what to look for, it's a very worldwide sort of profession that you can really take off from. But it certainly helps domestically, and let's jump into some of that. So the overall objectives of this course, and I apologize that one of my first slides has a lot of text. I'm not a person who puts a lot of text on slides, but this first one has got some text. Okay, outlining the process of road safety auditing, and that's key. This course is about that process. How do you go through the process of a road safety audit? Ensuring that participants understand the process and have basic skills, right? So we're just getting you started on your journey, and you will over time develop, and if you do audits and you get into lots of them, you'll continue to develop your skills. But certainly we won't cover everything you need to know to do all road safety audits, but we'll get you along the way for the process. We want to ensure that road safety audits are undertaken through a safe system lens. We'll get onto that, what that means. Some of you will be very comfortable with that. Some of you will be quite intrigued at what we're talking about there. I will give you a whole lot of common issues that arise in road safety audits. But certainly I can't cover all issues that will arise in the road safety audits you'll do, and you need to use your existing skills and knowledge and what you're going to continue to develop over your career. We're going to think about all road users: cyclists, motorcyclists, heavy vehicles, pedestrians, cars. Pedestrians covers a whole heap of different sort of road users in there as well. And we're going to encourage road safety auditing because it is a really good tool that improves road safety, and answer any questions that you've got. Okay, going to be nice to you here. Wally count is 1. That's what you're looking for. That's all the help I give you for this course in Wally counting. Okay, so where do you go to get all of this guidance and information about road safety auditing? Well, Austroads and a Wakatahi Safer Journeys document from the old Safer Journeys. They're the two sort of key resources for New Zealanders in road safety auditing. Now, this document is very recent, and I was the project manager specialist technical advisor to Austroads on that one. And that was released, early this year. This document's a 2013 document, and so it's a little bit old. It's got some really good stuff in it still. There is work happening now to shortly release some updated guidance. So I'm going to talk to you a bit about some of the new stuff in here that I know is going into future documents, some of the stuff in here that's going to continue, and give you this sort of hopefully a broad idea of what road safety auditing is and how you might go about doing that. Now, this diagram is kind of complicated, but what this sits early on in the Austroads Guide to Road Safety Part 6, which is road safety audit, that document I just showed there, and it talks about the road infrastructure life cycle stages from your network planning all the way through to operating and maintaining a road. And what it shows there are different sort of safety injections within those phases. And there's lots of this is a good thing to look at when you're looking for those, what is a safety in design, or what is movement in place, or crash investigation, or safe system assessment? How does that fit into this whole scheme of things? Road safety audit sort of sits in that project development design through to operating an existing road. Now, in New Zealand, we could probably chop this off here, because in New Zealand, an existing road doesn't get a road safety audit as such. It might get a different investigation, but we'll talk a little bit more about that. The first thing, though, that I want to point out straight off the bat here is a common misunderstanding of road safety audit, and the reason for this is because of that term audit. But people think an audit is like a financial audit where it is, are you complying with all of the standards and codes and the like? And immediately that is what people think about when the term road safety audit comes out. It is checking, did you meet all the standards? Well, that is not what a road safety audit is. Okay, a road safety audit is not a standards review. However, we may review how things are in comparison to the standards if we believe there's a safety issue. But certainly, as a road safety auditor, you can look at a new design, a plan, and it can meet all of the standards, and you may still report a risk, a hazard that you are concerned with. And that could be because the standard is deficient, right? Or the standard's been around forever and nobody's critically looked at it and we know it's an issue. So it could be that. It could be the way that the standards combine, right? And it's just that you can't have foreseen all of the way standards will come together. It could be something that sits without any standards associated with it, innovation and the like. And so, likewise, something may not meet the standards or the guidelines particularly, but you may be comfortable that it doesn't present a risk of death or serious injury to the community, and thus you are not required to report it in your road safety audit. So it is certainly not a check against standards. However, there are some really good fundamentals with a lot of the standards and guidelines that we have, and those should be something that we're sort of referring to and knowing about. But I think the easiest way to sort of explain that conundrum of safety versus standards and the like is just an example or some examples. So I'll jump into that. And I'm going to use this example of a crash on a fairly new motorway. And unfortunately, this was a fatal incident. The heavy vehicle driver was killed in that. And the design was done by, amazingly experienced, big multinational organization designers and really good design. And the road was built, and it's a really high quality road. But fairly early on within its opening, this incident happened, and you sort of scratch your head and you say, well, how can that happen? How can we build a $1 billion road and then fairly early on somebody is killed on that road? And you look at the design of this and you think, okay, well, what happened here? Road safety audits aren't about crash reconstruction, analysis, and reactive looking at crashes and working out what happened. But I use a lot of this in the course so you have a better ability to predict crashes in the future. So knowing what's happened in the past helps you predict a little bit what's happening in the future. But the design of this road had a barrier system on the approach to the overhead gantry here. And you can see the barrier system there. And let's say that this was, for example, a test level 4 barrier system. So barriers have a test level, and that basically dictates the vehicles and the speeds that were used to test that barrier system, that type of barrier system in the first place, to say, yes, it's approved to be used on the public road network. Now, in this course, we give out some prizes, and we give out prizes throughout by asking different questions and you being the first to answer correctly. Also, if you log in a little bit early, we often do a little bit of trivia just to warm you up before the session starts and give out some prizes and a few other ways. I'm going to give out a prize now for the person who can tell me, for a test level 4 under MASH, which is the Manual for Assessing Safety Hardware, but I don't get too concerned about that. What weight of vehicle is used in the crash at 25 degrees and 100 kilometers an hour to test the barrier system? So just chuck it in the chat. What weight of vehicle? Is it a 500 kilogram vehicle, Is it, you know, a 50-ton vehicle? So let's have some guesses. Oh, I can see some guesses coming in. Well done. Good. Yeah, good. We're getting a nice range. You can guess more times than once if you want. Nobody's exactly got it yet. Bouncing around it a bit there. Sol's got in there, and coming in there after. So it's a 10-ton vehicle. 10-ton vehicle, if it's a test level 4 barrier system, 25-degree angle. Now, I don't expect all road safety auditors to know that, right? But what I do expect is that road safety auditors sort of have this general idea that the barrier systems have that sort of design within them. And there's different types of barriers, and they're expected to contain larger vehicles or smaller vehicles, and just trying to understand that sort of dilemma. Now, if you are in a, asked a road safety auditor job that has a lot of barrier system and complexity in the barriers, you probably want to ensure that you've got somebody on your road safety audit team that is a bit of a barrier expert, or you spend some time with a barrier expert to just make sure you understand and you've checked off everything there. But this vehicle is going to be well over 10 ton. And this barrier system, may or may not have been test level 4. It could have been down to test level 3, which would have been a 2-ton pickup truck, as somebody said in there. But so the ability to expect that barrier system would contain that size of vehicle, you just cannot expect that. But this met the standards, okay? Because the standards weren't quite thinking about these scenarios, okay? And as an auditor, it's sort of your requirement, or what we're trying to do is, before this incident happens, and in fact, even before this road is built, that you've thought through this scenario. And you've thought, okay, this is a major motorway. It's going to have a lot of heavy vehicles. Okay, barriers, I've got some barriers all around. That's really good, and that's going to do well. But what if one of these heavy vehicles leaves the road and hits the barrier? And if they do that, what are the risks going to be? And the risks here are obviously the initial hit, but you can see there the potential for this to come down across the roadway and have even more death and serious injury associated with it. So quite a catastrophic potential. And so what we're trying to do as road safety auditors is predict the future. And imagine a road being built, imagine how it's going to be used, and imagine how people are going to fail using it. And then try to intervene early on, before things are built, when it's lines on paper or lines in CAD that we can alter. So that's actually the test vehicle for the test level 4, 10-ton, weighted in the center. And that's what we could expect one of those barriers to contain in most crash scenarios. Let me give you another live example of something that is a common road safety audit issue that I see a lot of, and I'm sure you will see a lot of as you get out there, and some of you will have seen a lot of these already. And what this is a new, so this one just happens to be a duplication of a road, a major new subdivision here, huge subdivision, big, massive complex with shopping center bits and apartments and everything. So it's massive. And so it's a signalized intersection that's being created. There's the duplication of the roads, some realignment, quite a bit going on there. There is if I go back a slide here, you can see that there's a existing large intersection up here, and the new bit is there. So basically all of this is new subdivision sort of complex. So anyway, if you can see there, the car, if you're a car here and you're traveling along at, it's a 60 km/h speed limit. So maybe you're traveling along a little bit faster, or whoever this is traveling along maybe 63, 65 or something, ticking along, and you going along, and oh, all of a sudden you are in a right turn lane. Now, we term this a trap lane, okay? And it's one of those terms, there's a series of terms in our industry that I just marvel at and go, whoever named that just deserves an award, because it is exactly what it is. You are trapped, you are trapped, and you can have left turn trap lanes, right turn trap lanes, but you are basically driving along and forced to do something you do not want to do. Your lane ends. Now, what we would like to see is that lane continues straight through, and in order to do a right turn, you have to deviate off into a new lane. That's nice, but it comes up surprisingly often that we see a new design with a trap lane in it because of land constraints and the different challenges that project teams have. Huge challenges in cost, in cultural heritage, in environmental, in earthworks, and all of these different things. And the way it configures is that they want to introduce this trap lane. Our role as road safety auditors is to identify that, and I'm sure that the designer knew that they were creating a trap lane there, but decided that was just something that was have to be accepted because they can't do anything else in their mind. Well, as a road safety auditor, our job is to flag this and try to help unpack the risks associated with a trap lane in this scenario. We know that a trap lane, we are going to have crashes in these areas here where the driver is approaching, realizes they're in a turn lane, and then makes bad lane change choices. We get a lot of turbulence in this area, and all sorts of sideswipey style crashes occur. Often minor. We do get rear ends as well when they can't do that. So we then flag that, and we make some suggestions on how this could be improved. Okay, enough talking out of me. I'm going to get you to do some thinking and some looking and some analysing. So we're going to analyse a crash now. But remember, road safety auditing isn't about analysing crashes. It's about predicting them in the future and trying to weed them out. But it's always good to try to unpack them so you can do that in your mind for future scenarios that haven't occurred yet. But what we're going to look at here is a bit of dash cam footage of a vehicle. So we're looking at the back now, and you can see the white vehicle coming up. We'll look at the front view shortly, and the crash is going to occur, and then we're going to play it a couple of times. Okay. I'm going to play it again. And this time I want you to have a think about what factors in the road environment, so the infrastructure, may have influenced this crash occurring. Okay. So what things are out there that might mean that this driver either didn't recognize the intersection was there, didn't recognize their requirement to yield at that point, or didn't recognize one thing or another, or couldn't work out whether they were safe to go or not, or anything around that. And I'm going to ask you to type it into the chat, just your thoughts on what sort of things there were out there. I will give a prize if somebody comes up with one particular one that I think occurs a lot in road safety auditing, but it's not necessarily to say that this is the main one in here, but it's certainly one that I've got an interest in. But let's have a look at it again, and then just type it into the chat. Okay. I'll play it once more because I'm seeing some good stuff come in, and it's good to analyze, have a look at it. Here we go. I'm going to play once more because I'm reading all of these great comments. And thank you. This group is fantastic, Kathy, in the sense of lots of good interaction immediately. And I'm reading through all these different answers, and it's nice to see lots of people putting it out to everybody so everybody can have a look. Okay. Wow. Wow. Yeah, okay. This is this has got a highly credentialed road safety group, because the comments coming in are absolutely fantastic. And this is good. This is exciting. But let's have a look at a few things here that popped in there. So somebody had mentioned a bit of sign clutter, and we're having signs blocking each other. I mean, how much of an issue is that in the whole scheme of things? Probably not a huge issue. It's not something we like and we try and get rid of, but is that going to make or break the whole intersection? Probably not, but it's a good bit of sort of detailed spotting. So people talking about the street lighting there, whether it's on or not, and sort of how dark is it out there? So interesting stuff. So visibility of the intersection coming up, and will people see that? So that's all good stuff. Bit of discussion of the line marking there, hold lines, limit lines, and then Melanie and Mike have come in within very close timing there, talking about the line of street column, the power lines and the street lighting continuing on through the intersection and that straight alignment through. Melanie's done it with a fair few words there. Mike's just called it the avenue effect. And that was the one I wanted to give the prize out for. So Melanie was in just before Mike, so the prize goes there. And this is sort of to me, a really classic road safety audit concept is what I call and term visual deceit. And it covers a raft of scenarios where the road may deceive a driver in what they believe is to happen. So in this case, the deceit from the road is this avenue effect, as Mike's termed it, or this visual subconscious clues to a driver that the road continues on unabated. And it classically happens when you have a run of power poles that continues on and a point within that road where you have to yield or give way like this, or often when you have a Y intersection. So a road is, I'll just use this bit of sky to draw that. So your road comes up like that, and your road goes around like that, but there's a road that comes off it there. And often you have your trees that run down there. And so a driver approaching here just subconsciously, subtly believes everything goes straight through like that. And of course, just needs to go a little bit onto the wrong side of the road before they realize, and you can have pretty bad incident. So this visual deceit is classic sort of road safety audit, chance of crash thinking. So a few people got that general theme there and talked about, not the road going straight through, not much breaking up that visual continuation of the road, got a little hazard board marker thing there, but what's there to change? So we've got some other people talking, actually I'll go back there, talking about landscaping, sight lines. Is there enough sight distance at the intersection? Is there enough advanced warning? Just looking through here, lots of really good stuff. I'm not going to get through everybody. Just checking if anything completely out of left field came in. No, it's good. You've got a general theme of that. But all of those things that we're talking about, and you've done that really well, are about the chance of somebody either overshooting the intersection or having restart issues. Now, those are two categories of intersection crash that I want you to sort of add to your terminology, because they're sort of thought about in two different ways. So an overshoot crash is where a vehicle approaching an intersection does not realize the intersection is there or realizes too late and overshoots the intersection. Okay, and this to me is an overshoot. This is an overshoot crash. If the driver is fully aware the intersection's there and it is their requirement to give way, to yield, and makes a bad choice on that, so slows down, stops, looks around and goes, or slows down enough and is looking and makes a bad call on the gap, that's what we call a restart crash. And they're both crashes, they both have injuries and deaths associated with them. But often, the ways that we would reduce the likelihood of those crashes in terms of how we could intervene is slightly different. So these are likelihood factors, and we would identify some of these likelihood factors, and we may make recommendations on how to lessen it. It could, address a lot of the things that you've mentioned there. You could be more advanced warning, could be better line marking, could be opening up sight lines, could be slight realignments to the road so we don't have that avenue, that visual deceit, could be changing in where street lighting is, could be bigger hazard markers. There's a huge raft of things, could be signalization. There's an interesting comment that's either just come in or I didn't see it in my skip through last time, which was asking, what is this intersection form? Is it a roundabout or is it not? And that to me is another really important visual deceit comment. There's an intersection type, and I don't have time to go into it, but in our last session, if we get time, it's called a wide median treatment. It's not used in New Zealand that I'm aware of. Somebody may correct me, but it's a real intersection form where it is super confused with a roundabout and causes some issues. This one is not. This one's just it's not a roundabout. If we go forward a bit, you can see there is it's almost like a half seagull-y type thing. But certainly you would be, it's acceptable to be confused that could this be a roundabout? Because the line marking has some roundabout characteristics to it. The give way sign has a lot of the same characteristics as a roundabout sign. It kind of has that look about it. So the confusion of what the intersection form is another road safety audit visual deceit thing that you've got to be looking out for. So you'll notice there that I'm spending the time here talking about the chance of a crash. What are the factors that influence that white ute driver overshooting the intersection and crashing? And we're going to try and minimize that. And I'm glad that nobody jumped on to just talking about the driver behavior. Because as road safety auditors, we kind of need to put that aside a little bit. Yes, we know there's inappropriate driver behavior out there. That's going to continue. And people are working on that. There's whole other industries working on that and doing bits and pieces. But what our role is to say, what can we do in the road environment to lessen the chance anybody will make that overshoot or restart problem? And then the big next one is, what can be done to minimize the severity of the crash if it still does occur? And that's a very sort of safe system oriented way of thinking of it. It's always been part of road safety auditing, but it's now further enhanced and more focused, and we get into a bit more precision in a similar way to safe system assessment. I'll talk to you about that in a second. But in this one, this crash, it's quite interesting, isn't it? Because the severity of crash, the initial crash is influenced by the sort of right angle nature of it. But then we see the secondary crash impact with that pole, don't we? And the pole sort of breaks away there. And then the top sort of falls off it, which is a kind of unique thing for a slip-based pole. I've not seen that before. Usually the whole thing goes together, but that's quite interesting. And so actually, the decision somebody made at some point to utilize a slip-based pole at this location, I would say has prevented a serious injury or potentially death to the vehicle driver there that was sort of just going about their business and driving along, and then all of a sudden got pushed into that. And then they had the sort of distance between there and there where they got dissipation of energy over time, rather than the instantaneous stopping around a rigid pole at that location. And as a road safety auditor, again, we really get into that thinking about where we can use energy absorbing infrastructure, be that barriers, be that slip-based poles, frangible infrastructure, or the like. So a slip-based pole, for those who aren't familiar with it, is a pole that, when struck at the base or near the base, shears. Okay? Struck and it shears off. Got some bolts on the outside that hold the wind load, the torque load. Okay, so that is it's a fairly ingenious sort of bit of engineering design, because we lessen the impact there, but we can still hold up big objects. Now, we certainly have those in New Zealand. There's an example of a slip-based pole in New Zealand that flung its way through a reassurance sign there. Nobody injured as a result of that. You can imagine the speed that must have happened in order to get that up there. But you imagine if that was a fixed pole, we would certainly be seeing death or serious injury, at least for the occupants of that vehicle. So a wonderful road safety feature. So as a road safety auditor, what you're going to be asked to do, you're going to be given something like this potentially. And it's going to be different, an intersection being created or being modified, and new lighting going in, and alterations to the light, new lights and the like. And you've got to be looking at that and saying, well, what type of poles are they using? Are they going to be slip-based or not? And are they in appropriate locations? Should they be slip-based? Can they be? And imagining people leaving the road, hitting them. And so again, as an auditor, our job is to get in there before these crashes happen and try to intervene. Now, here's a random New Zealand street, and I suppose the question I have for you now is, do you think, or why would or would not it be appropriate to have slip-based poles on all of the lighting in this location. So is that a good thing or a bad thing? If a vehicle leaves the road and they hit the pole, we want to make it as friendly as possible. Is it a good thing? And what are the risks associated with utilizing slip-based poles in these locations? Okay. Yeah, so lots of good points there. I think Nick was in first with the main one I was looking at, which was hitting pedestrians or the like. So you have to, understand and balance that risk. So prize for Nick. Kathy's keeping track of prizes, by the way. And those prizes will arrive to you at the end of the course with a hard copy of your certificate when you successfully complete the course. Yeah, we don't use slip-based poles in low-speed environments, and we don't use it in areas where the falling pole, as it goes, could do more damage. And these sort of environments don't tend to get slip-based poles because A, the speeds are low, and B, when they fall, they are potentially going to land in pedestrian areas. Often there's power lines around. There's not any power lines in this spot, but taking out power lines or light rail lines or the like. So you've got to think a little bit about where they're going to fall in these environments as well. And a rule of thumb is, high-speed environment, slip-based poles, obviously still thinking about what's around. High-speed environment, slip-based poles. Lower speed environment, either a rigid pole or there is another pole type, and I will give a prize out. We do categorize it as a frangible pole, but anybody got the name for that one? That's a bit of a challenging question. See if anybody's got that. No, a little bit of a tough one. And as I say it, I'm pretty sure New Zealand uses the term as well, but certainly it's used across Australia and the US. But okay, that's all right. It's called an impact absorbing pole. Impact absorbing pole, and what it is weakened in the base, but it essentially stays within a certain envelope. So you can see here an example of the pole, and it sort of wraps around the vehicle to a degree and stays within that. It gives it a bit of extra cushioning, but it's certainly not what you would use in high-speed environments because you lose a lot of the advantage of that complete slip base. And also in areas with high numbers of pedestrians as well, you're still going to have something that sort of comes down. But it is another option there. So the use of the choice between a slip base, an impact absorbing, or a rigid pole is an important thing where road safety auditors often provide some really good insights at the design stage. Another one, which is more of an existing road thing, but may be something that comes out in your road safety audit, is the height of a slip-based pole. So you can see here, Max, one of our senior auditors, is looking at the recently completed job and looking at the height of the slip plane. And he's using our little Barry device, which has a little marker on it for exactly where it should be and what tolerances there are, right on the slip plane, this one. But if it's too high, the vehicle will snag. Vehicles will snag on the base, which is well secured. Too low, and you're just lessening the shearing ability. Often you'll get covered with a little bit of dirt as well, but you're lessening the shearing ability. So that's another one to just keep your eye out for. So you can start to see now when you get that design and you're looking, okay, this is rigid and vehicles will be leaving the road at high speeds. We really need to make this breakaway on impact. Slip-based is right, or that would be dangerous because if I hit there, it'll fall into a pedestrian area. And so you're trying to proactively think about risk before the crash happens. So road safety audits are proactive. The black spot investigation or crash reduction study is more your reactive treatment. So if you're looking at a route, it's got a significant crash history, and you're going to analyze the crashes, you're going to analyze the types of crashes, the locations of crashes, the details of that, and come up with maybe a crash matrix and crash diagrams and all of that sort of stuff. You're doing a crash reduction study. You're doing a black swan investigation. Still will come out with infrastructure improvements that could be made, but the audit is really when you've got a design in front of you. They plan to do something, or they've recently built something and you're checking. And you're saying, what are the crashes that could happen when they build this new road, when they create this new roundabout, when they build this new shared path, when the new bus interchange is built? Yeah. And you think through how a road user is going to use it and what crashes could happen. Question often comes up is, should you look at the crash history as a part of a road safety audit? And there is no right or wrong answer to that. There's a bit of personal preference associated with it, but there's also a bit of understanding of what is the scheme that's happening? What is the change that's happening? So take, for example, my little comment there about a new bus interchange. And maybe it's a whole new thing, and the whole area is being transformed significantly, new roads, new changes. Maybe it's a big interchange. The crash history of the site is somewhat irrelevant because it's all going to change, right? But if you've got an intersection and it's got maybe traffic signals, and the project is to add a new right turn lane within that, and maybe a second right turn lane and some new signal changes, maybe the crash history is a bit more relevant because you can start to look at, okay, actually there's a lot of pedestrian crashes there, and what changes are we making? What else could be enhanced there? But you shouldn't be driven by that crash history, because then you're bouncing back into crash reduction studies. You're trying to put yourself in the future when the new infrastructure is being built and predict those crashes that could happen based on how road users are going to use this new facility. So it's up to you. What I personally do is look at the design with my audit team, and we go out and we look at the existing conditions of the site, and we imagine it being as new and built, and how everything will connect together and tie in, and all these new bits and pieces. And then we think about risks, and we say, oh, this crash could happen. Okay, what if people come in there too fast? Okay, well, the pedestrians actually want to go from there to there, and there's not really any facilities, so how are they going to do that? We think through all of these possible ways that people will use the infrastructure and crashes that will happen, go through that. And then we might look at the crash history at the end and just say, okay, is there anything that stands out in here that we haven't really thought about? And so we don't get blinded by the crash history and say, well, there's only been 2 crashes and they're only on that corner. So that's that's where we're going to focus our attention, because we are trying to cover the whole scheme and the alterations in the scheme. Some random sort of evaluations around the world of road safety audits showed some pretty amazing benefits. So the biggest one was out of Canada, and so it showed a benefit cost ratio of 36:1 for undertaking that road safety audit at the design stage. And quite a few jurisdictions do these existing conditions road safety audits, which is kind of this hybrid mess of a crash reduction study and a sort of existing conditions, just look at a road, but that was at more of a 6:1. And the reason for that change is that at a design stage, altering the design with lines and changing the lines and how something will be built is very low cost in most instances. Sometimes there's added cost to it, sometimes it saves money. But when you've got existing roads, it's actually going to be physically changing something and building something. So there's a difference in just the cost associated with that. Okay, I'll get you to to do some more stuff shortly. Actually, I want to get up to a point where we'll give you a little quiz. It'll pop up on your screen, and we will then give you a chance to fill up your water and have a little stretch. So road safety audit is defined in the Australia's Guide to Road Safety Part 6, and it's a big definition. It's on page 4. And so I'm not going to go through and just read aloud all of that text, okay? Because you can do that yourself. There's lots of things in there that talk about what it is and what it is not, what it should include. I'm going to take you through this throughout the course, but I've picked one particular thing out of that, which is quite well sums up the overall fundamentals of road safety audit, and I'll grab one from the Waka Kotahi document as well. So it's a formal exam. I've got some key words highlighted here. A formal examination of a future road or traffic project or an existing road or road-related area in which an independent, qualified team reports on the project's crash potential and actual safety performance respectively. So some key things there. This is a formal process, and next session, I'm going to take you through the steps of a road safety audit. It's not just a casual check of a design. It's not just a going out to a site and having a quick look and jotting down a few notes. That's not an audit. That can add value to a project, sure, but it's not that road safety audit process. Future projects is what we're really looking at. What are the future changes? How are we going to alter that? Not as much existing conditions for New Zealand, but in Australia, you can do these existing conditions road safety audits, looking at what's currently there, what are the risks and the like, regardless of crashes. You may integrate crashes into that. Independent is really important, and independence is held really as an important part of road safety auditing. You cannot audit your own design. You cannot audit the design that you are the project manager for. You cannot audit something that you have a particular interest in, because we want that independence. We want frank and fearless advice on road safety impacts of what is going to be built. We want qualified teams. Now, we want people who have an understanding of this road safety audit process, or we want people that have knowledge in different areas of road safety, from the technical end, from understanding road user behavior, from general understanding of how people will operate around the new facility. You don't have to be an engineer to be a road safety auditor, but often we do have technical people as road safety auditors, but often we do find great value in non-technical people being part of road safety audit teams, because they will challenge some entrenched practices in us technical people and question that. And that's a really good thing. What is the common sense sort of say in it, not what have we been doing for the last 40 years and just continuing to blindly do. So in the New Zealand document, we see that independence really clearly highlighted there. Independent review of future road projects to identify anything that affects road safety. The audit team considers the safety of all road users. So that's important. It is for all road users. Qualitatively reports on road safety issues and opportunities to improve safety, intended to help deliver a safe road system, is not a review of compliance with standards. And well played, New Zealand, for putting it in that clearly. So the safe system is the philosophy under which New Zealand is operating to improve road safety. A lot of you are very familiar with it, and once again, well played to Waka Kotahi on the deployment of getting people to understand this and how it integrates into their work across the entire industry and varied industries, which is great. So many of you are very familiar with this diagram, and I don't need to go into it in a lot of detail. And certainly the principles of the sort of safe system operation that you can see there are integral to road safety auditing. And a few of them are really, I suppose, very important. So this human vulnerability, and we talked a little bit about crash severity, a little bit like a safe system assessment. We do a bit more analysis now of the impact of crashes that are going to occur. And so how bad a crash is going to be. We have that shared responsibility. So again, a road safety auditor is not looking for, not trying to just say, well, it's just inappropriate behavior that would cause an issue. Are there things we can do in the infrastructure to try and alter the scheme so it's less likely there's a crash to happen? And if it does happen, how the energies are down. And yeah, a few of the others sort of relate, but I'm going to focus a little bit on that one as we go through. But safety is a critical decision-making priority. So the importance of a design, be that a design of a public transport facility, active transport facility, congestion project, or the like, really has to be subject to this independent safety review throughout its design. We would like to see a safe system assessment done early, setting the fundamentals of the project, and then road safety audits ensuring that all the specifics are getting the best safety outcome possible. Okay, Kathy, I'm just going to check here if there's any questions or the like that I need to deal with. Okay, and the quiz has popped up on the screen. So hopefully you'll be able to see that on the screen. Now, you are not being marked on this. I've got to stress that. You're not being marked on it. This is just a way to consolidate your thinking. I want you to answer the questions. And the first few we have gone through. Okay. And the last one we have not, unless you came to the safe system assessment course, we have not gone through. So have a go at those. And then have a stretch and we'll go from there. Catherine.
Thank you, Ken. Sorry, there was just some chatter in that last little bit there about the definition of qualified and whether or not we have a register in New Zealand at the moment for road safety auditing. And I know you'll go through this in more detail in the last session, but maybe just a quick little wrap up on where things are at there.
Yeah, thank you. There is no register for road safety auditors in New Zealand. It is on a project by project engagement of the auditor and pushed to the project manager to determine suitability, qualification. So certainly, successful completion of a course such as this one, a recognised course is expected, but apart from that, to undertake road safety audits in New Zealand, there are no other specific requirements. There are registers of accredited road safety auditors across Australia and across the world. This course, and I will show you at the end, qualifies you to be on the register for quite a number of those, and we'll point those out to you. So if it's something you're interested in being able to sort of put on your CV as a qualification or an accreditation, we'll be able to get you through to that, because you can, as a New Zealander, apply to the Victorian or the Queensland or South Australian accreditation register. But certainly at the moment, successful completion of a road safety audit course is sufficient in New Zealand. And then they will think about your general skills and qualifications in whether or not they engage you to undertake that activity. So let's have a stretch, fill the water up, back in 2 minutes, and we'll go through the answers to this poll, and we'll keep ticking along. There we go. Thank you. We paused the recording there. Okay, let's have a look at how we went on this. And oh, hang on. There we go. Sharing the results. So, true or false, a road safety order is another name for check against standards. Wow, well done. 100% of people are listening. Hey, that's what we like to see. True or false. You can order your own design. False. Ah, good. Okay, this one wasn't as explicitly stated in what I went through. Safe system, one of the common principles of the safe system, eliminate mistakes on the roads. Well, we're going to try and minimize mistakes. The idea of eliminating human mistakes is not achievable, so we look to minimize and manage. So most of you are on that. A few sort of trying to get their head around the question probably. And then the Usain Bolt one, which quite a few of you have used this analogy already on, but just trying to understand how fast humans can run and why we're asking that. And it was 44 kilometers an hour. So quite a few of you remembering that from the last one. So let's take that and just recap for some of you the biomechanics of injury utilizing friend Usain Bolt as our human, and just re-look at the graphs of injury. So collision speed down the bottom, so that's speed of impact, and this one is of passenger vehicle hitting pedestrian, and this is fatality probability. And we see there that around 10, 20 or 30 kilometers per hour, highly survivable for the bulk of the population. Up around 60, 70 kilometers per hour, where vehicles hit people, pretty likely to be killed. And it sort of kicks up exponentially from there. As Usain Bolt comes in there, so the analogy is if he ran directly into a car at his maximum speed, would he survive? He's very strong, the hulk of a human. He will likely survive at his maximum running speed, but this graph really trying to represent the entire population. And of course, we can show our example of energy humans are able to survive, and that's what we're designed for. It's not fun, it hurts a bit, but we recover to lead a normal, healthy life after running into solid stuff off our own speed. But when we go faster than that, we run into solid stuff or stuff comes at us faster than that, we're in trouble. And so we need to think about managing that energy as well. And just like safe system assessing, road safety auditors are more and more now analysing the predicted severity of crashes under different crash scenarios, different vehicles, different crash types, different road users involved. And so again, we're going to look at right angle here as our next example, right angle crashes, where the bullet vehicle being the one that does the damage, the striking, travel speed, so that's collision speed, not speed limit, just its speed of impact, and around 30, 40, 50 kilometers per hour, highly survivable, up around 80 to 100, very unsurvivable for the occupant of the target vehicle there, big kick up around that 50 kilometers per hour. And head on, we see that 50, 60, 70 kilometer per hour, reasonably survivable, up in that 100, 110, highly unsurvivable. So we're going to utilize these in road safety auditing when we come to that sort of quantification of the severity of the crash. And that 10% line is often used as a pretty good indicator of where things are going to go really bad really quickly. 70 kilometers per hour for head-on crashes, 50 kilometers per hour for right angle crashes, 30 kilometers per hour for pedestrian cyclist crashes. There's lots of work happening in looking further in detail at these, altering them for different crashes, different things, but generally still they're accepted as pretty reasonable places to look at the moment. And I've put those in there with a couple of extra ones just for something for you to turn back and look at as some general impact speed thresholds. Now, in a safe system assessment, we're going to sort of hold you to some of these impact speed thresholds as saying, is it above or below that? But I'll get to that shortly. But take a note of this within the notes, just to say I may need to come back to this at some point. Okay. The old model of road safety auditing was to identify issues, risk rate those issues, and then recommend changes. The new model is still to identify issues and risk rate them, but we want to assess the likelihood of fatality or serious injury based on biomechanical tolerances, which was what we just went through, and flag a few things there. We're still going to recommend treatments, but then we just want to categorize those treatments into how effective they will be and how much they align with safe system principles. So these two new ones, for anybody who has been doing road safety audit, is something you should start to integrate further into your audits. And the new templates that will be coming out and new guidance from New Zealand will sort of specify some of this. But the other bits are fairly well established there. So I'm just going to walk you through a live example. It's often the easiest way to, to show those different steps. And I'm going to use this new intersection design as a way to do that. So you can see there, it's a new intersection. It's got splitter island, and it's got a left turn lane, a right turn lane. It's a high-speed road, 100 kilometers per hour. Side roads also 100 kilometers per hour, but gives way. It's a T intersection. And the particular issue I'm going to look at is actually what we call a dynamic visual obstruction issue. And that's when a vehicle is turning here, often a large vehicle. Me trying to draw a truck from above. And you've got a vehicle here, and this turning vehicle is obscuring the sight lines for the vehicle making a choice to turn out there. So let's have a look at that in a live scenario here. So you can see there a vehicle's propped to turn right out of there, and they can see the truck there, and you can see a little bit of the white vehicle that's trailing behind there. And so, the truck's doing its turn, the white vehicle's there, and the silver vehicle in the foreground is basically in that position to say, well, as soon as that white vehicle's passed, that's my time to go. But the whole time, this other silver vehicle had been masked. The vision had been masked by the large vehicle. What we would term a dynamic visual obstruction. And that dynamic meaning moving, dynamic visual obstruction. It stopped us seeing it. So it was masking it the whole time. And it's a fairly, I suppose, common crash scenario at an individual intersection sort of treatment. It's very rare, but we still see it often across the network. But this is something we may pick up as a road safety auditor before that left turn treatment is built. So here is an audit finding, okay? And the first thing I want you to know, or I want you to notice about this audit finding and the write-up of it, is a diagram. And where you can snip something from a design, do a little diagram, put in a photo, whatever way you can, it is so beneficial for the receiver of the audit report to see that. So you can see this one. They don't need to read all of this to get an understanding of what we're talking about, but the words are in there. Now, I'm going to give you a formula for writing an audit finding. Now, the formula, or some people call it a recipe, it is something that I give to new auditors because it steps you through ensuring you're covering the key elements of what we expect to see in a finding. So the first thing we expect to see is a description of the issue you're concerned with. So this one says, for the intersection of these roads, the vehicles using the left turn lane may create a dynamic visual obstruction for motorists at the hold line looking for three vehicles. So it's described, and there's the picture, which is going to help. Then you specify the crash. This increases the likelihood of right-through/side swipe crashes involving vehicles turning out of the side road. Regardless of how obvious it is in your mind what the crash type is going to be, we want you to specify it. The reason I always stress this, especially for new auditors, is because there is a temptation often in road safety audits to put in things that people just don't like, or there's other issues associated with it. It's not to peg it back to a specific crash that is influencing is very hard. If that's the case, it's not a road safety audit issue, it's some other project issue for others to work on. We are about preventing or minimizing the severity of the crash, and so that's why we ask you to spell it out, the crash type. So I want to see in your reports, specification of like a head-on crash, or a crash involving a vehicle striking a pedestrian, or a sideswipe crash, something like that. Then we put in there any risk factors, any factors that are making this more risky or less risky. So the volume of vehicles is low, which is going to reduce the likelihood. However, the large proportion of heavy vehicles making that left turn increases the chance of that dynamic visual obstruction. Then if you want to, and if it's applicable, you can reference standards and guidelines, if applicable. So this one happens to meet Austroads and VicRoads, and it's a Victorian example here, design guidance. But the auditors still believe it presents an issue. There you go. Not a check against standards, because that meets the standards for that issue and how it's done. The auditors are still pointing it out. So, risk. Quick prize. What does risk equal at the international definition of risk? Big sort of international risk equals something times something. Pop it into the chat. Right? Have I lost everybody? There we go. We're starting to get. Okay. Gemma's in there. Gemma, prize for Gemma. First in there with 2 comments, consequence, likelihood. Yes, and a few others popping it in there. So thank you. And so likelihood, consequence, frequency, severity, however you want to define it, it's the chance of crash and how bad that crash is going to be. As some of you who've been doing safe system assessments know, we extracted likelihood exposure from likelihood, but in road safety audits, we still just lump them together to get that international sort of risk definition the way it is. Now, New Zealand sort of did this unique thing, which I tell you, when I first saw it, back in 2013, when New Zealand came out with this risk matrix, it boggled my mind for a while. It gave me sleepless nights trying to get my head around it, but I'm comfortable with it now. So the reason it was done is it's fairly standard. You see frequency, you see a matrix put up, frequency of crash, so frequent, common, the like, and then severity. But usually in severity, we put, catastrophic, severe, low. New Zealand went severity, likelihood of death or serious injury. And the reason it boggled my mind is I'm like, hang on, we've already done likelihood over here. And now we're doing likelihood again. And so I was weirded out by it, but I'm okay with it now. I've sort of got my head around it. And what I did was come up with a little bit of assistance to myself originally, and now I share this with some others to help people get their head around it. So the frequency includes the exposure. So how many vehicles are going through and what's the chance? That's all sort of packed into that one. And you can look at the Austroads Guide to Road Safety Part 6, not 6A, 6, page 27, which will give you some information on that from the Austroads perspective. And it can help you with the frequency of crashes there. But in the New Zealand guidelines, there is embedded in some of the text some information. Doesn't help you a huge amount, as I think Mike's sort of pointing out there, that there's a bit of a lack there. There are a few things, 1 per year for frequent, 1 per 10 years for infrequent, and a bit of lack of any other guidance there. But so you make some judgment calls yourself there. But how do we go on that sort of severity? So the likelihood of it resulting in death or serious injury. And this is where I sort of utilize the biomechanics of injury and safe system charts to help me a little bit understand this, or get myself comfortable that I've got something defendable if anybody was to ask. And I started to just peg them in that 10% tolerance into very unlikely, unlikely, likely, and very likely as a result of death or serious injury. So it's not perfect, but without any other guidance, that sort of makes me fairly comfortable. But I can imagine a crash, I can imagine the speed of it. I know some generally accepted evidence around the probability of death and the probabilities that will happen, which helps me with that. So hopefully that helps you until we see if Waka Kotahi comes out with very specific guidance on how to do some of this. The Austroads, this one's more just for your interest because you still will be using the New Zealand sort of stuff, but this one may be more what the next Waka Kotahi document comes out with. And I created this as part of the update to the Austroads Guide to Road Safety Part 6, which was a severity and a likelihood, which specified there includes exposure, and put some specific quantification of each of those and gives you the ability to look at risk. And also this line to say anything that sits to the right of that line needs to be flagged as not meeting the tolerances of the safe system, because we want to eliminate death or serious injury from that severity element and push things that side of the line for severity. I'll put that in there for your interest, and just to explain that, it's another way to sort of look at that risk and embed safe system into it. I might just pause there, see if we've got anybody with anything that I need to deal with, Kathy. Otherwise, I'll kick on with a couple more live examples, but I need to make sure I leave enough time for introducing our little research exercise. So, Kathy, anything I need to deal with?
No, I think we're okay for the moment. It was just covering off, what's happening in New Zealand with regards to the New Zealand guidance.
Great. Well, let's go back to our live example there, and we're looking at the dynamic visual obstruction in this new intersection and Barnawatha Road. And we see there, so we've really nicely written up the finding using that formula. We've got a nice little diagram there, and we need to now say, well, what is the risk? And this is where we say, well, what's the frequency? What's the severity? And what's the resulting risk? And you go back to your charts to look at that. So we go, what's the frequency? What's the severity? And what's the resulting risk? Okay. And the colored ones in here are the risks. And this is the same with your occupational health and safety risk assessments or your other, financial risk assessments or whatever, you get to that actual risk by looking at the severity, the frequency, and coming out with your risk. And then what we want to do is come up with some sort of recommendation and think about what we can do to alleviate this. And we categorize recommendations into primary recommendations and supporting recommendations, just the same way we do in safe system assessments. And in fact, I point you at the safe system assessment framework for examples of each of these. And so those of you who have done that course, you've got your head around that, you're able to do it. We do the same in this. We're trying to make this a consistent way of looking at treatments. But a primary treatment, for those who aren't familiar with it, is road planning design management that virtually eliminates the potential for fatal or serious injury crashes occurring in association with foreseeable crash types. Whereas supporting treatments are planning, design, and management considerations that improve the overall level of safety associated with foreseeable crash types, not expected to virtually eliminate the potential of fatal or serious injury occurring. Also does not change the ability for primary treatment to be implemented. Now, if you are not familiar with this, I really do stress that you should go look at this document. It's a free document. In fact, we'll put it into Moodle, but to just look at some examples. Because if we are to take, for example, our intersection, if we were to say, remove the left turn lane, okay, people will be tempted to call that a primary treatment because we have eliminated the dynamic visual obstruction issue that we're talking about. But actually, what we're saying is, have we eliminated the potential for death and serious injury associated with vehicles coming out here and striking vehicles here, that intersection crash in particular? And the answer is no. So there will still be bad judgment. There will be, issues, bad choices, people, all of these things. There's going to be less of them because we're not having this additional factor of dynamic visual obstruction in there. But we can't say we've eliminated death and serious injury from right through type crashes or these particular type crashes. So that would be a supporting treatment, not a primary treatment. So here you'll see that this audit's gone, implement measures to reduce the speed and or angle of impact at this location. This could be achieved with a roundabout, primary. The roundabout will reduce the speed, the angle, and virtually eliminate this crash type of intersection crash. Now you see here though that it says, if this cannot be achieved, implement measures to improve sightlines at this location, such as increasing the offset of the left turn lane. This is where it would come down here further and you'd have some sort of buffer gap. So it's opens up the sightlines. Relocating the hold line forward a bit, presuming it can be done safely. They are both supporting. Now, this is where the auditor is trying to help the project team. Yes, we want to see this primary treatment. That's important. That's nice. But literally will cost millions and millions of dollars more than what's happening here and may not be feasible. So they've provided some other sort of options. And there might be more. It might be that you're doing a REORS, like a rural intersection activated warning sign, or other features that you might think is possible. In fact, that's what Wayne has just put in there. He could have a prize for saying exactly what I'm saying. Hopefully, Kathy, we can keep up with all these prizes I'm giving out. So let's not get into too much of the detail on that. I just was actually doing this. We were doing an audit, colleague and I, on this particular one, we had exactly this issue, the dynamic visual obstruction one. It just happened to be an area where we also had some recommendations around cyclists. We were a bit worried about cyclists at this location because they had a shoulder and then they lost their shoulder, and it was sort of, and so we actually were then suggesting, and we just mocked up for them. We're not redesigning. We just said, oh, this is what we thought might actually be quite neat here, which is that you take your shoulder and you put then a bike lane through, and you offset your left turn. So you'll open up the sight lines better and you'll provide a bit more space for cyclists. And it's going to cost them a little bit more because they've just got to move that left turn over a little bit more earthworks, but we think it's a good outcome. That was just an aside. Little audit tip: to be categorized as a primary treatment, it must either address the consequence of the crash or virtually eliminate the possibility. But when I say virtually eliminate, I mean, we're talking about including general human error. But really, I just stress, have a look at that safe system assessment framework. It just gives you a whole lot of examples and you'll get your head around it. You'll get quite a few opportunities to practice this throughout this course. So the New Zealand RSA template, the Word document that you can download off the Kotahi website, we will be giving you a copy of this to work with, has some drop downs that helps you with that risk rating. And so you will just use those drop downs to put in frequency, severity, it'll spit out the risk, and it'll help you in that.
Ken, sorry, can I just jump in with a question just quickly? Earlier when you were talking about that example, a comment come through saying basically it's safety in design.
Well, it depends whether you're taking a literal safety in design term, or you're talking about safety in design as the process. So there is a particular process around the place called safety in design, which has specific ways of looking at the ability to construct infrastructure, the ability to maintain infrastructure, the ability to operate infrastructure safely, the ability to decommission infrastructure safely. The road safety audit is focused in on that ability to, operate the infrastructure safely, and can it be used by all road users, and has a further in-depth focus on that. So while I agree with you, I mean, it is the safety within the design, is the design got inherent flaws and the like. Just be careful with terminology there, because safety in design has its own thing so if you were to say, I don't need to do a road safety audit because we're doing safety and design workshop, again, no. Both are providing value in their own specific ways. But yes, it is lowercase safety and design, absolutely. Okay. Just some wording stuff. Here's a poor example. Right turn bay is too narrow. Here is a better example. Right turn bay from road A to road B is too narrow. Concern is increased potential for sideswipe crashes, rear end crashes. Austroads guide states 3.3 metre minimum. And here's sort of maybe what you would see as an excellent one. And you'd see there that we've got a snip of the issue. So that's helping, a little arrow at it. Good. Don't even need to read too much. That's good. I know what you're talking about. So if I'm the designer, I go, oh yeah, okay, I know that. I had to compromise that because I didn't have enough road width. And yeah, okay, they're concerned with it. But you can see here we go back to our formula. The right turn lane is too narrow to adequately store the vehicles. Concerning vehicles will encroach in the same direction lane and will either performing the maneuver, blah, blah, blah. This, therefore, will increase potential for sideswipe or rear end crashes. So specifying the crash type, particularly under wet weather conditions or at night. The concern is likely to occur occasionally and is likely to cause fatal or serious injuries. And then the Austroads guidance, the issue, the crash, specify the risk factors and the standards and guidelines. if applicable. And why am I sort of banging on about this particular formula? Well, because you're going to be marked when you do your audit on these 4 elements, or 3 elements, if the 4th one's sort of a nice to have extra bonus mark. Okay. Road safety audit is not. It's not that other name for a site inspection, quick check of a design. It's not that crash reduction study or black spot investigation, or a substitute for that. It's not really an opportunity to do fundamental redesigns of the project. Now, that's an interesting one, because we did talk there about that other intersection where we said, well, why don't you put a roundabout in at this location? And that is fundamentally redesigning the project. But there's a bit more of a shift to trying to put those ideas out there. So we're trying to get our best alignment with safe system principles, but that probably goes slightly against that one. It's not that check against standards. It's not actually seen as a way to prioritize or rank project options. Again, that's one where safe system assessments are the appropriate one. And it isn't a safe system assessment, because that's other stuff. And there's our safety and design check or workshop or the like. So it's not that. But we do see overlap with all of these. But I do like this idea, and you've got to get this in your head, is that a road safety auditor, which you will essentially be when you successfully complete this course, and you'll get more experience doing it. A road safety auditor is a problem finder. So you've got to try to find the problems before they present as death and serious injury. And that is the primary role of the auditor. Solving it and coming up with these changes to rectify it, that is just added bonus for your client. Okay, it's really over to them to work out how to solve it. I mean, they are the ones that know all the financial constraints, the land constraints, the cultural heritage constraints, environmental constraints, the budgets, the timelines, the community. Some bloody hard thing to, build a project like this. So for us to come in looking specifically in this lens of safety and be able to say, this is how you should solve it, I always say, no, provide them with some options and make it very clear for them which is the best and the safest way to outcomes, but other options for them to think about. And I've shown this diagram to quite a few of you before, but that's sort of the design review, which is where you hand your design over to your neighbour or your person sitting next to you and say, can you do a review of this, check my calculations, check all of that's right. This is the safe system assessment, which has some wider elements. This is safety and design. So we do have overlap, certainly. But this is, going to be built safely, decommissioned safely, and the like. And you can see audit sort of straddles quite a bit of this and has some stuff on its own. I think there's a good, some great consultants in this group, and and offering that package that covers all of this is a nice thing to do. Maybe design review mightn't be in there, but nice to package it all up if you can, and because due to the overlap and the efficiencies you can get. Okay, I'm going to quickly go through things, and then I'll take any final questions before Kathy gives you a little assignment to do, which is hopefully going to be a bit of fun. But what can be audited? Well, pretty much anything that interacts with the road environment. Big projects, small projects, urban, rural, pedestrian, bike projects, active transport projects, and the like, innovative projects. And usually I have a tick next to this, existing roads, but I put a cross here for New Zealand, because you don't do that, and it's very clearly specified that road safety audits aren't done on existing roads. They can be done just after work has finished to check, but that's sort of just before, I suppose you call it, an existing road. Here's an example, and I will do this because I think it really says a lot. Here's an example of a road. We've got the road comes up here, give way. We've got the priority road through here. Got this unsealed road here. And the project is a stock standard road upgrade project, sealing the unsealed road to make it like this. So, you know, some curbing, some improvements to the intersection, making everything better. And does this need a road safety audit? Well, the council in this scenario elected not to do a road safety audit because the project manager said, well, we're just making everything better. We're sealing the road, we're making it better, we're formalizing the intersection, it's going to be better, it's sealed, everything's better about it. Why would we, you know, and we're building an older standard, why does it need a road safety audit? Well, in this case, when they built it, I'll show you a bit of it there. Don't worry about the burnout marks, they're not the issue. I'll look at it from this direction, there you go. There you can see it. Just without knowing anything, fairly quickly after they built it, crashes just jumped up significantly. And why do you think crashes jumped up significantly after they finished building this? So there was a number of serious injuries in the first year, a fatality in the second year with some more serious injuries, and you know, all after this was upgraded. Yeah, Shane sort of got it, although Wayne and others are coming in with really good ones. But yeah, it's back to what we talked about before. You know, when it was like this, vehicles coming up here, it really looked like a T intersection. There was a completely different road environment. It's quite well, you know, ability to see that. As soon as it was sealed, it looked like it just went straight through. And these were real overshoot crashes. In this direction, they were just going straight through there, the power lines. So that big change in surface was enough to highlight it was different. So it just shows you that even though you're doing everything, you know, improving things, it's all looking really good, it actually caused this road safety issue. So who was that prize to? I can't, yeah, Shane it was. But yeah, I mean, more vehicles attracted to it, the speeds were higher, and there was the other road coming in as well. So there are quite a few issues. And certainly, like, it would have been nice at this point to either have staggered it, so, you know, offset it. So, you know, that's expensive. But it could have even been splitter islands gone in here. It could have been active warning signs of this approach. Could have been a REOS here, slowing vehicles down. I mean, the amount of stuff that could have been done was big, but nobody was thinking about any of that. Okay, so types of road safety audits. Well, we sort of split these. There's the pre-construction, the construction, and the post-construction. Now, construction ones are sort of, we're not going to cover that because in New Zealand, it's sort of looked at in a different way with the way that reviews of traffic management schemes and roadworks and construction are done. So really, we're concentrating on this concept design, preliminary design, and detailed design road safety audits. And then that immediately after it's built or just before the ribbon is cut, that road safety audit. And so these early ones, the concept stage ones, feasibility / concept, you know, big alignments. What's the land use? How are the people from up here now going to get down to here? Where would they go? How are these the appropriate interchanges, the intersection forms? What's that going to create? Big. I often call these the planning road safety audit. You might then get into a bit more detail. You're getting something on an aerial base or a survey base, and you're getting some detail, and you're looking at that in that preliminary design stage. Then there's the detailed design stage, and this is where you get the full works. You get the long section, the cross section, the drainage plan, the lighting plan, the pavement, you know, the signal phasing, the lot, you know, and this is where it takes a real. You really need people who are very good technical experts in your audit team because they need to be able to see something like that and visualize it into a road alignment. And you get lots and lots of plans, and certainly, for a decent, size project, you can have 583 pages of designs that you've got to sort of be working your way through and trying to understand, okay, what are they going to build? How does that work? What's the crossfall going to be at this location? How's that interacting with other areas? It's quite a complex, detailed task to undertake, and it takes a lot of time. And as I say, you really need to have that technical expertise, or be part of a team with people with that technical expertise. As I mentioned, other jurisdictions will do these construction stage road safety audits, which is looking beyond what the specific code is, and is that the right spacing of signs, and are they the correct signs, but looking holistically at how people are going to use it, how they're going to access different points, what the detour route's going to put them, is it going to take them near a school, or these sorts of things. But New Zealand does this slightly differently, and so I'll just push that to the side. The pre-opening, so I've put this picture for pre-opening because this road's not open yet. You can tell because there's a vehicle going the wrong way on the carriageway. And this is where you go through and do a final sort of check. Have they got the RRPMs the right color? Are the guideposts the right way around? Is the barrier overlap right? Is it installed at the correct height? And it's sort of, what's there? Has it all been put in right? Is it going to confuse anybody at all? You look back, have all the past audit findings been rectified appropriately? And this one, occasionally you need to, be really strong and say, this issue needs to be rectified before this road's open. And, they can be quite interesting when they've got the minister coming out to cut the ribbon, and you're saying you can't do that. And here's sort of a pre-opening one. This was an interesting one out of Auckland. Some of you may know more the history of it. I didn't see it live, but can somebody see if you were the pre-opening or post-opening order? So it's just opened up. Any issues with that? Prize for the person who can see any slight issue there. Yep. Yeah. So it's, yes, okay, everybody's sort of getting in there and trying to type things in as quickly as possible in order to do it. I'm going to give it to Rahul there for the left turn conflict, and I know that Gemma and Mike were bouncing around there and others getting in late, but yeah, so I mean they've still got redundant line marking, which they haven't quite figured. But of course, if you're turning left from there and there's a through and the vehicle's going through, we've got an obvious conflict, which is bad and should be rectified. And that was, those are the kind of things that we'd be wanting to pick up in that. There are these thematic road safety audits, sort of taking a specialist road user or sorry, particular road user and looking at things through their lens in particular. And we'll talk about these as we get to each of them. Okay, Kathy, wow, we've done well here. I'm going to explain the assignment, and then Kathy, get your random topic generator tool ready to go. Hopefully we've got it ready to go. But what we're going to do is, because there are so many issues out there, and we simply do not have time in our modules to cover them all, we've picked a few that we think are really good things for you to think about in road safety engineering. And we're going to randomly give you one topic. And we want you to do a little bit of research on that topic and create something. It could be a little short video, it could be a fact sheet, it could be a cartoon, it could be, anyway, it could be a TikTok, it could be a song, an interpretive dance. We don't mind, but we want you to relate it back to road safety and thinking about, if it's a road safety auditor, what should you know about this particular topic? Okay, we're going to share these with everybody. So, just be aware of that. So you'll be able to have a look at what others have come up with. Oh, I didn't quite finish there, but we are going to give prizes to the, what was it? The most creative. So the most creative presentation of that idea, the most technically sound, and the most engaging. There they are, thank you. And the most engaging. So yeah, do with it what you want, but we certainly don't want you to be spending days and days on this. You know, just make sure you know what the topic is, pop something together, get it in there. Over to you, Kathy.
Thank you, Ken. Sorry, I jumped the gun there a little bit. But yes, I was just showing people that where you go to have a look at this is the module 1, and you're looking at research topic, and that's where the instructions are there. And we got one of our lovely engineers to actually do an example 1, and it's in the module 1 videos there of something you might do.
Awesome.
However, you're looking for the random topic generator, aren't you?
Random topic generator. We'll be sending this out, so don't worry if you miss it. But here we go, random generating topics. And you can see at some point it will stop. Is that it? It stopped. So there you go. You can see you will get one of those, and we will send that to you, put it in there. Oh, well, Kathy's copying it immediately, but what do we got? Active events, warning signs are shown. Rahul's got sign retroreflectivity. Then there's dynamic visual instruction. Oh, we've already covered that one. So there, you know, I have to think of it. And it goes on from there. So maybe you can slowly scroll down there so people can potentially see their name as they go. I won't read through them all. But if you look at that topic and you go, I don't know what this is, and I'm Googling it and I can't find it, get in contact with us, okay? So we've tried to use fairly generic terminology, but occasionally it's something that isn't used in jurisdictions or the like. And some of the topics, there's so much information on. Some of them, there's not much, and you might struggle. But we were happy to point you at stuff if you struggle. But just put something short, concise together, try and make it catchy, fun. We've seen some awesome stuff come in, cool fact sheets, or, you know, a nice little short video, or a little, you know, 1-minute podcast, or you know, something like that. Yeah, we don't want like a 30-minute video. I think we put a 1-minute maximum on videos, something around that. Just to try to contain it, because again, it's just that, yeah, we want something that grabs the attention of others, highlights the topic, shows what it is. And any questions?
This is your opportunity for questions. What I will do is pop that list into that research topic section in Moodle, and it is due on Friday. So, and that's because Ken likes to spend the weekend looking at everybody's wonderful creations. But as he mentioned, don't spend a whole bunch of time on it. Just something short and sweet is good. And we will give some prizes out next week to the most creative, most engaging, and most technically sound. Yes. And
you have a quiz. They have a quiz.
Oh, yes. Sorry. And there's a quiz. So much work to do at the end of today's session. Multiple choice quiz. Oh, and so how you submit it is through Moodle. So I don't think the submit box comes up just now. But basically, what on your version, there'll be a thing here that says submit, and you submit it in there.
Yep. And go to the quiz, just show them where the quiz is.
Oh, yeah. Quiz. Sorry about that. Thank you. There is the quiz. 10 questions, multiple choice. You just attempt quiz and you get a number of attempts. So all good there.
Good. Get in contact if you've got any questions. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Ken. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.